So I'm Pip, and I'll start with you, Ian, from Age UK.
Hi Pip, hi everybody. Ian Anderson, Chief Executive, Age UK Leeds.
And you're a specific rep for?
Long-term condition board.
Long-term conditions, which is really helpful,
which met on Monday.
Brilliant. Thank you. Christine.
Hi, I'm Christine Ellis, head of Wheatfield's Family Support Team. So we provide, we're part of the COVID support line in Leeds along with Gemma's, and we provide pre and post bereavement support to patients and families in the west of Leeds.
Excellent, and delighted to have you, Christine.
Thank you.
Carl.
Hi everyone, I'm Carl Whitty. I work at Forum Central. So my standard role pre-COVID was working with the local care partnerships and particularly enhancing the voice of the third sector within those discussions.
Thank you, Carl. David from William Merritt, hi.
Hi there, everybody. David Blythe, I'm General Manager at the William Merritt Disabled Living Centre. I think you know that we do assessments for people with disabilities for everyday mobility. I also work with Forum Central as a trustee on Volition.
Thank you. Karen Fenton, hi.
Hi everybody, it's Karen here, work for Volition at Forum Central and the development worker for the Mental Health Network and also the Physical and Sensory Impairment Network.
Thank you. Ros from Habitat, Ros Davis.
Hi, I'm Ros Davies from Habitat. I've recently come in. I started at about the same time as COVID-19, taking over from Victoria Betton, who many of you will know. And before that, I spent 6 years in the working for various charities such as Good Things Foundation, the New Economics Foundation, and one of my favourite jobs ever was a mental health charity in Sheffield who run digital platforms.
Fantastic, thank you. Brilliant to get that breadth of knowledge and expertise. Francesca, hi.
Morning everyone, I'm Francesca Wood. I'm actually a consultant doing some support work for Forum Central around their transformation scoping work. So that's why I'm here today, but I know some of you because I'm also contracted by Leeds Community Foundation and I'm currently their Healthy Holidays Coordinator, which has kicked off a bit earlier than usual this year due to lockdown.
Thank you. Kerry Jackson, hi.
Hi, thanks Pip. So I'm Kerry Jackson. I am Chief Executive of St Gemma's Hospice. I am the third sector representative on the Partnership Executive Group, which is tasked with delivering the Leeds Health and Care Plan. And I've also got a place on the Health and Care Gold, but that is a place as a St Gemma's provider rather than as a third sector rep, but it does allow, hopefully, me to champion the third sector in that meeting as well.
Thank you. Tina, hi, Tina Turnbull. You're on mute. You might have to unmute yourself, Tina.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, Tina Turnbull from People Matters. People Matters has been doing a whole range of things, but included in terms of COVID, right at its core, is we have still been delivering face-to-face support out in the community. So dealing with all the ramifications of that, but lots of remote stuff as well. And from a Forum Central perspective, I've been your person that's taken an particular interest in workforce development issues, and have recently been involved in the recruitment of the new director of the Health and Care Academy.
Brilliant, thank you. Jess Parker from Touchstone, hi.
Hi everyone, Jess from Touchstone. In terms of representation, I sit on the LCP programme board. Touchstone is delivering a lot of mental health and wellbeing services, both in person and remotely, and delivering an emergency food bank as well at the moment.
Thanks, Jess. Kath Lee from MenCap, hi.
Hi everyone, I'm Kath, I'm Chief Executive of Leeds MenCap. So we've been trying to do the best we can with remote delivery of services to our families, children and young people. And we've also been a lead hub for the Richmond Hill and Bermontoffs ward for the Community Cares volunteering. project.
Oh, thank you, Kath. Diane Pay from Victim Support. Hi, welcome.
Hi, I'm Diane from Victim Support. This is my first time at this meeting, so it'd be really interesting to see what's discussed and how how it goes. I'm operations manager for Leeds, the Leeds area. I manage a team that usually works out of Merrion House in Leeds. We are all working remotely at the moment, so that's been challenging, but we are offering a full service apart from face-to-face support at the moment. We're offering telephone support, we have chat lines, we have all sorts of different ways of offering support, but we're just not giving face-to-face support at the moment.
Oh, that's great that you could join us, Diane. Thank you.
Thank you.
From Irish Health and Homes. Hi, Ant. Ant, you there?
Hi,
yeah.
Hi. It's good to see everybody.
Really good.
Long time no see. Yeah, Ant from Leeds Irish Health and Homes. I'm not here as a rep on any committee or anything like that. Actually, I thought it was the Weight Watchers group, so apologies. So yeah, we're still delivering services, but remotely. And I suppose that our news is that we were instrumental in bringing a lot of Irish groups together as part of the Leeds Irish Communities Initiative, and we've invented a concept called the Crack Pack, where we're delivering Irish goods to people just to let them know that the community's thinking about them. So
yeah, brilliant initiative. Yeah, thank you, Ant. Ruth from Care and Repair. Hi.
Morning. I'm Ruth Cornellison, Chief Exec of Care and Repair Leeds. We're an organisation that provides services to keep people independent in their homes. We're still operating all our services. The only thing we're not doing is home visits. So again, we're doing our assessments by phone, but our contractors are still continuing to work and provide necessary interventions in people's homes and help with discharging people from hospital as well.
Brilliant, yeah. So many examples of how much people are kind of keeping services going. And a reminder that on our website, there's a link to all of that update. So do make sure that you're sending that information through to Daisy. Lee Ingham, hi. How are you?
Morning, everybody. Lee Ingham, CEO, 2 neighbourhood network schemes, Bramley Elderly Action and Owls, which operates in Headingley, Burley, Hyde Park. We've just carried on reducing loneliness and social isolation. We're doing it a different way. We've gone from 32 regular activities to 6 services, 7 services, and we're adding new things regularly. But yeah, good to see everybody.
Thank you. Tessa from Women's Therapy Service. Hi, Tessa Denham.
Morning, everyone. Morning, Pip. Yeah, we've moved our service online, doing groups and individual work online. I'm not sure what I sit on in relation to Forum Central, but I do attend the Mental Health Strategic Partnership Board, and I'm also an advocate for sexual violence service on the West Yorkshire Domestic Abuse Advisory Board, but I think that's separate. I'm not quite sure.
No, it's good to know that. Those links are important, actually. Thank you, Tessa. And I think we're a bit overdue, a bit of a remapping of reps. We're going to come on to that in a moment with, Hi, Toby.
Oh, hi, everyone. I'm Toby Page. I'm a solution architect in the City Digital Partnerships team, which is a team that's hosted by Leeds City Council, but we're funded across by all the sort of health partner trusts in Leeds and the CCG. We work on supporting and developing digital platforms to sort of deliver the objectives in the health and wellbeing strategy. So we're also very interested in the third sector and what we can do to support everyone.
Brilliant. You're going to talk a bit in a minute about that, which is brilliant. Alyssa and Claire as well from Holbeck Together. Good to see. Double use of, hi, welcome.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Chief Officer at Holbeck Together. We are a neighbourhood network scheme operating out of the Holbeck area, and we've been stepping up our outreach meal service and delivering 50 lunches and 50 suppers on a daily basis for 6 days a week. And we've been doing Sunday lunches as well, once a month. So we've stepped up our meal service to over 300 meal deliveries a week.
Wow, thank you. Jag from LIP. Hi, Jag. How are you?
Good morning, everyone. Jack from Leeds Involving People. Nice to be here.
Veronica from Karen. Oh God, no! Sorry, Leeds Directory. Sorry, that's a terrible slip.
It was lovely at Care and Repair, so that's fine. But yeah, I'm from Leeds City Council now, so I'm from Leeds Directory. So we've been obviously thinking about what we can offer, and so our focus has been on reminding people we're there for safe providers in the home. So anything from a plumbing leak to help in the home, helping people stay independent, making sure all our providers are up to date with social distancing, having conversations with people when they ring a helpline about the urgency of what they need doing and keeping safe and weighing that up. Also helping people to connect and stay socially connected, and that's where we very much connect into what a lot of the people here are offering. So we've connected in with Forum Central so that we're as up to date as we can be by connecting with your website.
Excellent.
But also if people have got things that have moved online and they've got activities, if they can update us as well, make sure we've got all of that information there. So noticed a lot of people here who've been tweeting for us, we've been tweeting for them, just to remind people that we are another way of promoting and letting people know about what you're doing, because we're a bit of a gateway and a catch-all for what's
Brilliant.
going on in
Thanks,
the city.
Veronica. Lucy Graham. Oh no, she's just. Yep. Hi, Lucy.
Hi everyone, I'm Lucy Graham, Operations Manager at Volition and part of Forum Central. Sorry, I've got a barking dog, which is why I'm up and down. I'm going to mute myself.
No worries. Lucy Hancock. Good to see you, Lucy.
Hello, so I'm just really amused by the dog and the fact that my husband took this time to come and put the kettle on. Anyway, I'm an imposter today. I'm Helen Kemp, who's usually at this meeting.
No imposters here.
So apologies for impostering, but yeah, Helen's on leave, hence I'm here, and I'm Operations Director for Leeds Mind, and similarly to other people, we are delivering all of our interventions online currently.
Thank you, Lucy. Phil Gleeson. Hi, welcome, Phil.
Hi, sorry I'm late. Laptop trouble. Yeah, Phil Gleeson, trustee at Volition. Good to meet you all.
Oh, good to see you. Thanks, Phil. Teresa Davis.
Hi, everybody. I'm Teresa. I'm from Adults and Health, normally based up at Merrion House, and I monitor the contract with Forum Central.
Brilliant. Good to have you. Rachel Cooper. Hi.
Hiya, I'm Rachel, Chief Executive Lead of the People's Forum. We're part of Forum Central. My work with Forum Central through COVID and lockdown has focused on people living with frailty and on those that are shielding. We also were trying to initiate a larger coordinated programme of work around men's health before this hit, but obviously men's health remains a key issue, so we're continuing that through COVID. And then just briefly to mention, sort of with my LPF hat on, we've been sending out a new magazine called Shine to people that are isolated, and working with the council on the Are You OK service to support those that are ringing the helpline that want regular phone support.
Thank you, really helpful. Thanks, Rachel. Jane from Bereavement Forum. Hi.
Hello. You already introduced me. I'm Jane from Leeds Bereavement Forum. During this period, obviously our face-to-face work has stopped, but we've taken a lot more online, so that includes our bereavement training. So we're doing quite a lot of that at the moment. And we've been working with the CCG, trying to work out what's going to happen with bereavement going forward.
Yeah.
A lot going on.
Huge.
Huge. And I also work at Crossgates Good Neighbours, so I have two hats.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Jane. And Julia?
Hi there, I'm Julia. I'm from More Elton Elderly Care, so we're one of the neighbourhood networks in the north. And so, yeah, what we've been doing is no activities for the last 3 months, but phone support for service users. We're doing things like shopping and food support, IT support, all done remotely. And we're also the hub for Alwoodley, the community cares hub for Alwoodley. So that has been a big part of what we're doing. And we're just moving on to looking at things like Doorstep Chats now.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks, Julia. Susan Morell. Hi, Susan.
Hello. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, indeed.
I'm sorry, my connection keeps dropping, so I keep disappearing, and I apologise. I haven't heard most people's introductions.
Oh, we'll send the notes around, and we can send a recording. And I think taking your video off might help, but obviously it's also nice to see people, so it's that balance.
I'll see how it goes. It seems a bit better at the moment. So Susan Morell, I'm Chief Exec of Leeds CIL, which provides support for people on direct payments. Principally people who employ their own support workers. At the moment, we've got about 1,400 employers employing their own workers. That's disabled people, older people, anybody basically who needs assistance with daily living. Around the COVID situation, we've had to adapt. We've managed to keep all our services going by moving everything working from home, but the specific difference we've been doing is providing support, particularly around obtaining PPE for their PAs, because a lot of people haven't been using their PAs because they haven't dared to, which has meant they're back sort of losing their independence, relying on family who are maybe isolating with them. So one of our big pushes now is, as well as getting the PPE to them, which has been brilliant, I have to say, through Leeds City Council supporting that, is now doing risk assessments and helping around reassurance as much as anything else, confidence, getting PAs back to work. So that's
really important.
Our big focus now.
Fantastic. Thank you, Susan. And Andy Rawnsley, welcome. Hi.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
Not at all. So yeah, do you want to introduce yourself, Andy, or should we go? We were just very briefly just saying who we were and where we were from.
Andy Rawnsley, Chief Executive at Aspire Community Benefit Society, supporting adults with learning disabilities in supported living, day services and respite across the city. And I've got a role as co-chair of Volition.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much. And I think, is there anybody shout out if I've missed anybody? It's brilliant that we have, like I say, to have so many people. We've got 30 odd people, which is brilliant, and really just so brilliant to hear that breadth and range of all the work you're doing. What a brilliant, it's a real snapshot, but a real strong sense of all of the different responsive and creative and just remarkable ways in which, as third sector organisations, you're kind of helping keep all of the really important services and links and connections to people across the city. So huge thanks to all of you. And, all of the conversations we're having with senior leaders, the thanks that people want us to kind of convey back to you in the third sector is really strong and very palpable. It's absolutely a time, I think, where the contribution of the third sector is so visible and so valued and so recognised. One of our big challenges is how we really use that energy. So obviously that will come into some of our discussions today, but massive thanks, and really just do know how kind of valued and appreciated all of that work is. What we did this time, obviously it's quite different trying to do these things on Zoom, so we tried to send you quite a detailed overview to give you that sort of update of some of the work that Forum Central are doing, and it'd be really great. Do use chat to capture kind of thoughts, any feedback on whether that's useful, whether that could be improved, anything further that we can do to help keep you informed and engaged and connected with, there is so much happening, isn't there? So many different things in terms of keeping it ongoing work and existing networks and groups, but also there've been a lot of different and new structures and organisations. So we tried to kind of capture some of that, but feedback on that would be really helpful. I'm afraid that we neglected to mention the PSI network in that, which is an omission of mine, and obviously a really, really important kind of strand of the work that we do alongside, mental health, older people, the kind of health and wellbeing through the local care partnerships. All of these areas really key and really important. Do let us know about all of that. What we'll do, I think, is we'll try and make sure that we have some time for conversation and discussion, but do use chat and we'll see how that goes. Any feedback as we go along, do put it up there. But if we move now to the three main areas that we were flagging that we're keen to have your input on. So the first of those is thinking about how we develop our representation. obviously this links to harnessing the power of communities and the opportunities that we have to really use resource, and also some of the wider connections that we're now building through communities of interest and some of the other work we do. So Rachel's very kindly going to take us through this part of the discussion.
As Pip mentioned, we've got an opportunity through the Harnessing Power of Communities programme to have some additional support to representatives. We think possibly in the form of a post that could offer support, but I think we're quite flexible as to how we might use our resource to provide that extra support. So just quickly to say it by reps, we mean many people such as yourselves that are working in the third sector, that take on a role where you're representing the broader sector beyond your organisation, often within those kind of decision-making structures, so that's often in the form of boards. We have a huge number of reps, and we're just remapping that to make sure that it's up to date. I'm sure there's, you know, it extends beyond Forum Central and is really positive in terms of, you know, the sector is often invited in, or we're pushing at an open door now in terms of being involved in those discussions and seen as a really important partner. However, I think it has added to the complexity and the number of meetings that we are involved in, and you know, it's really important that we're coordinated and we can provide support to reps. We're aware that there are persistent challenges, particularly for some more than others, around things like you know, it can be like a different language coming into some of these meetings. What we're doing is I want to have some conversations over a really short period of time, but talking to people who are reps, like yourselves, and an opportunity here today to just have give me some general kind of input on, and we posed a question in the notes before the meeting, but where you think we should direct support to reps, and what kind of support you think would be useful. Yeah, so I will throw that out there.
Yeah, and I think the particular thing that we're wanting to hear as well is how we make that more inclusive and how we create capacity, particularly knowing how difficult it can be for really small organisations and people who are so stretched. So that's thank you, Rachel. It's really good to kind of get that overview. Does anybody want to kind of kick off any thoughts on that? Any connections? I know, Jag, from Leeds Involving People, you have a lot of knowledge and expertise in this area, so it'd be great to get your views, perhaps.
Happy to. I think, like everybody knows, that the sector is a strong sector, and we do play a significant role within the system, especially now. There's still loads to discuss. Lots of areas, I think, that we could develop even further that perhaps we're not reaching. But I think as the conversation goes on, I'll chip in if that's all right, Pip.
I suppose the thing I find probably the most useful as a rep is the conversations with the people from Forum Central who are connected across all of the different reps and all of the different groups, because it is, I don't know what other people feel, but I find it impossible to keep on top of all the work that's happening, and you know, trying to even sometimes trying to read all the papers that are coming out, it can feel a bit overwhelming sometimes. So I think that clarity about what are the discussions that are going on in the broadest sense, and what are the messages for this. Obviously, people will have their own individual take on that, but what's our third sector position on this, and what are the key messages to get in the meeting? So I suppose more of that, I would think, is where I would see the biggest benefit. I'm not sure if that's exactly what you're asking, but
yeah, I think so, and I think that key messages element is something that we could probably do better on in terms of support from Forum Central. I think it can be quite hard. We've got multiple messages, but opportunities with work like the resilience work plan, and you know, some of the big challenges that we're coming up against, like cuts to council budgets, might, you know, there are some clear things that we might want to champion together, and and look at forming those central messages.
Yeah, no, that's good. Tina, I think you want to come in around workforce. Hi.
Yeah, I wanted to see what people's view was on one or two workforce issues, as well as being sort of doing the day job. One of my volunteer role at the moment is that I'm one of the council's inclusive growth ambassadors, and there's been. My perspective is that the council is really supportive in doing what it can around supporting all aspects of the workforce, but they've got constraints, like everybody has got constraints. And actually, what we've all been going through for the past 3 months is a bigger thing around the health and care agenda, and how, particularly within care, the workforce is supported. I had a big debate with the inclusive growth ambassador team within economic development at the council about what messages should we be sending about what needs to happen to health and social care. And that led me to do an article and put it in South Leeds Life about what after the clapping, where are we going? How are we promoting change? This isn't about lobbying the council. It's about being involved in the national agenda, about saying the resource given to care is not sufficient. It means that we're not, I don't pay, much as I would like to, I do not pay my support staff the full living wage. And this message, I think if a city like Leeds cannot articulate this nationally, then there are going to be very few places in the country. And actually, as a city, we need to step up and take this message and say, because it's dropping off the agenda. Now the clapping's stopping, everything's sort of the news media is moving on, and actually it should be a real key for the city to be involved in the debate that says, how do we resource care properly to enable us to pay our staff appropriately? And I have to say I don't know what everybody else's views are. I'm going to stop if it's okay. But about 80% of our costs are staffing. And I'm sure it's going to be similar percentages around the city. And we need to be able to recruit, we need to be able to retain, and we need to be able to support our staff appropriately if we have a stronger service. And we need to get political with a small p and advance our best interests.
Yeah, no, and it's a really important point, and hopefully it is something that we can work very closely with the local authority, who have been really strong allies and supporters of the third sector. And people will have seen the budget deficit, 190 million it's enormous, isn't it, the challenge? And Leeds, I think, has had a really strong voice nationally and all of that, but even so it's huge challenges, and they will need us and other people to kind of work and support around that. So I think there's always something, isn't there, about, and it perhaps a bit back to Kerry's point about making sure that we know what the key messages and the big ticket issues are that we can connect up on as well.
I also wonder, just reflecting on that, if there's something about, could this postal resource support with it our techniques being broader, or our avenues being broader than that we're involved in. So could it be supporting people to have a voice in local media, and doing vox pops, or training for people on effective blogging, and something a bit more political.
Yeah,
I think there's also something around research as well. So it's not sort of it's not my anecdotal story, for example. It's actually got an evidence base behind it. It might be obvious, but actually it needs some robustness. So it's not just individual stories.
Yes, no, I think that's really important, isn't it? And obviously the state of the sector and the sector resilience survey and some of those things start to help to build a picture, but we need to get much better, I think, as a city at doing that. Any other reflections? Carl? Yeah, do you want to come
in?
Hi.
So just kind of following on from Tina's comment, we've been doing a piece of work in collaboration with a number of partners within the third sector and Leeds City Council, collecting the voices of people working with particular communities of interest who experience additional challenges during COVID-19. And that's been really insightful in terms of the underlying inequalities which are influencing people's experiences of COVID-19, and sharing a lot of learning about how the sector can cope with some of those challenges. Understandably, a lot of the discussions have been focused around the most pressing issues experienced by the sector during COVID, but now we're moving on to looking at what next, how within the reset we tackle some of those underlying inequalities experienced within communities, and how we as a sector can respond to some of those challenges. So we're looking at how the new structures, the new network which has emerged through this piece of work can link in with other conversations across the city, other networks. And we're looking at how we can potentially come up with a mechanism to support collective decision making around some of these issues. So it may be something that I can pick up with people after this meeting, and if anybody wants to contact me to discuss how to feed into the community of interest work, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's really helpful, Carl. And yeah, hopefully people have clocked, because that's been a huge opportunity, I think, to raise issues and to voice them, but it's how we do that. What do people think about different mechanisms and how the sector needs to respond in terms of reset and as things are different after? Because it feels like the world has changed, hasn't it, in terms of how we work and what we do and everything in so many ways. How does that reflect our connection with representing and voicing, and particularly hearing some of the least heard voices?
I think, Pip, the conversation certainly with some of our partners that are on here, including Health Watch, CCGs, LTH, TLCH, are looking at how seldom heard communities are continuing to be involved. So that gives me a lot of hope. I think all this has drawn out who really in the city do help, as we all know, to run the place, and that's the frontline workers, the transport. And I'll refer to Phil on this one. Lip did a paper about 2 years ago for the communities team, and I don't know if Carl's seen that paper. Certainly I've circulated it to Health Watch, but that paper's also saying that we need to look at society a lot more differently. As we grow older, different people matter to us more or less. So the view that doctors are gods is going away quite, in BME communities and other communities, as different forms of networks that matter to people. So how do we as a system get a bit smarter? Because clearly the trust and confidence factor with government and councils does vary with communities.
Massively, yeah, no, that's absolutely, yeah.
And the work Kerry took leadership with St Gemma's and LIP has been fantastic. How do we get BME communities involved? But I think that there's loads of big questions we all need to think about.
Yeah.
And I don't think we've thought it through yet. It's early days because of the pandemic. We're all just getting on with our daytime job. But certainly there's issues around how we equip frontline workers to have more confidence to speak.
Yeah.
There's a workforce element to that. There's training. We had a long conversation at the Leeds Social Care Community Forum yesterday, 2 hours.
Yeah.
The main topic was Black Lives Matter and how do we support the system? What's our institutional responses to all of us to try to address the inequalities that's coming across and unconscious bias? So there's a lot to talk about, and I think just logging it for now.
Yeah.
Specific agendas today, so I don't want to hog anything.
Yeah. No, I think that's it is, as you say, it's a huge topic, isn't it? But I think we want to just make it really clear that we want to have that discussion, we want to hear, we want to get this right, and we're not going to get it perfect, but it's such an ongoing process, isn't it? And we absolutely need all of your help to do that. So anything else, Rachel, that you want to pick up on? Or
just briefly, if there's, if anyone's got any thoughts on who's not round the table and who's not able to have that access to those people in power, if there's any gaps you think we should be focusing on.
Yeah, really helpful. Thank you. And yeah, welcome, Heather. We were just talking obviously about that first point about representation. You're welcome. Do you want to say hello and introduce yourself? Hi.
Hi, Heather Nelson, CEO of BHI. My apologies, being interviewed and it ran over. So yeah, pleased to have joined you.
Brilliant, thank you. And we won't all go around, but you can hopefully see there's 31 other people, which is brilliant. So we're next going to come to the piece of work around shaping our future, which Francesca's going to say a little bit about. Do you want me to do a quick introduction, Francesca? So this piece of work absolutely grew out of the last Health and Care Leaders Network that we had when we had the conversation from Gina Davis, who came, and we had a really spirited and just proper conversation about some of the power and some of the issues and some of what the clinical commissioning group was planning to do in terms of its future, shaping our future is their sort of big program around how they're rethinking what it is to be a clinical commissioning group and to be a commissioner. That's all very much along the pathways and journeys rather than, thinking about contracting in the sort of traditional ways that they've done it. They're very much trying to think about different threads and journeys and pathways for commissioning. And one of the very significant issues, obviously, that you were all raising and that we had conversation about is how do we give some power to the least sustainably funded, least powerful and vocal bit of the system in that new way of working, which, Gina completely kind of took on board those concerns and issues. If people want to revisit those slides, we can kind of share those. But out of that, we pulled together a proposal, and the clinical commissioning group have given us some funding, a few £1,000s to do a piece of work to scope out what all of that might actually mean. What would be the kind of practical issues, and how do we begin to understand the complexity of big organizations and little organizations and working together collaboratively, and all of those, they're not new for us as a sector to think about. We've done a lot of thinking about these matters, but to think about what they mean here and now, and obviously to think about what they'll mean in our ongoing and hopefully eventually post-COVID world are also going to be really important. So we wanted the opportunity to really flag that with you, to introduce Francesca. And do you want to say a bit, Francesca, about how people can connect with this and link with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Pip, is it okay if I talk about the scope of the state of the sector as well? Because I think they go alongside each other.
Please, absolutely.
Okay, so thanks very much for inviting me along today. There's actually two pieces of work that I'm doing for Forum Central, but obviously when I say for Forum Central, it's obviously across the networks very much as part of that. The first is the state of the sector work, which I'm sure some of you have been involved in, heard about. It's been sort of going along for a while. The big change with that is about creating that sort of picture and understanding of what the health and care and wellbeing sector looks like within the third sector. Partly to make sure that we're able to present that picture, you are able to present that picture and show yourself as part of that, but also to engage with the health sector so they really understand more about the role and collective clout and impact that the third sector makes to that agenda. One of the big things that's shifted in terms of what we want to present with that is for it also to touch on the wider determinants of health as well, so that it's not just about the services that the third sector provides to support directly for health and carer, but also some of those wider determinants of health, which are so important. And I think COVID has shown even more important than perhaps they often get featured. That's a piece of work that's undergoing at the moment. We have put it out to tender. We're expecting to be interviewing next week, and then as part of that work, they will be the successful contractors will be engaging through the Forum Central networks and the your wider networks out there to make sure that they are developing that picture, very much that combination of quantitative data and evidence base, as well as those examples that will really help to bring it to life as well. So watch this space, there'll be more information coming through on that. That's one piece of work. The other piece of work that I particularly wanted to talk to you today is more about, as Pip says, the transformational agenda and the strategy that's going on there. As Pip said, this is really about trying to make it practical, because where do you start? So what we wanted to do in terms of some preliminary scoping to share back with the CCG is to identify what are the priority areas of infrastructure that we really need to strengthen if the third sector is going to be a key player at that table for future commissioning. Now, you may have all had your thoughts before COVID hit. Some of those would probably have changed since then. So it would be really good on the back of this to identify some of you who you'd be up for a short conversation or a collective conversation, if that means we can share learning more effectively about what some of those priority areas are for you and the organisations and communities that you represent. We also wanted to understand some of those existing partnerships that work well already, so that we're starting to develop models, a model or a group of models that we would want to advocate for. So again, if you've got particular examples of models where you feel actually these are the sort of components and features we would want to make sure are incorporated into any future partnership models for the third sector, that would be great. That's particularly also around that understanding of how do you make this collaborative rather than competitive, and how do you make sure that this combines some of those more established organisations in the third sector with some of those smaller organisations that nevertheless can really deliver value and impact, particularly with the communities that might be least heard. So that's the want to understand some of those existing partnerships and good practice, potentially also what doesn't work, or where you're thinking in terms of post-COVID, what might be necessary that maybe has not been a feature before. Or, for example, we're hearing more and more about some of those informal networks that are coming to the fore. How might they shape, need to inform future network as well? And then the last thing is around connection with key partners and what might contract delivery partnerships look like as well. So on a really practical level, how do we make this work? How are we going to be able to engage with the commissioning process? What might some of those features be that make those contractor partnerships more effective and manageable? So I guess on the back of this, I'm after interest from you in terms of particular features or an opportunity to discuss that and unpick that a little bit more. We don't have a lot of money or time to do this, so if we want to work at smarter ways to pull you together collectively to discuss particular themes, that would be great. Today was really just about coming to understand a bit more about what you're doing, put this offer out there, and then on the back of this, engaging with you and seeing the sort of most effective way to sort of harvest your intelligence and insight on the back of this initial conversation. So that's everything.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, thank you, Francesca, and great to see on the chat that Kerry, Jess and Ian already, and others, please do kind of log a particular kind of offer to help with that. Does anybody have any particular questions about this work or any kind of comments now? Obviously we'll be keeping you in touch with it and using you, again, as that kind of reference group to kind of feedback and to test out kind of where that work's getting to. I think the timescale for it is that we are planning to, I know we kind of slightly amended it, but it's sort of by autumn, isn't it? It's fairly fast turnaround in terms of trying to get some early findings back, because obviously what we want to do is influence the the CCG and make sure that it's feeding into their next year's commissioning intentions and thoughts. One of the many papers and links that we shared with you was there's a really great piece of work that the CCG have done around inequalities. Becky Barwick, who again people will know works closely with Gina Davis at the CCG and has also, you know, been a very kind of thoughtful and supportive kind of advocate for different ways of working in the city. So it's really worth people having a look at that information as well. But unless anybody's, I'm not seeing any obvious, unless I'm missing anyone, but huge thanks, Francesca, and really pleased to be able to kind of work. And, you know, the speed of response from Gina coming to the last of our sessions to being able to put this into a really practical piece of work that helps us take that forward is a really great example, I think, of the value of us working together as this network. So thank you for that. So the next item is just that we wanted your kind of input and connection with is the third sector leads resilience report. There's an action plan that's coming out of this. So hopefully everybody's clocked the resilience survey. We worked very closely with Voluntary Action Leeds and Leeds Community Foundation and also Social Enterprise Yorkshire and Humber to do a survey quite early on about some of the impacts that the initial COVID at the time of sort of lockdown in those early phases was having on the third sector. We had a brilliant response. We had 164 responses from organisations in Leeds, including, I know many of you, quite a lot of you followed up. We had 8 or 10 telephone interviews that Jill Crawshaw actually did some volunteering with us to help us kind of make sure that we were also getting that kind of rich kind of quantitative and qualitative, being able to kind of put the two together. And we're also incidentally working with West Yorkshire and Harrogate. There's a broader survey that we've extended out, again working really well with Voluntary Action Leeds. So really important that we're able to have some kind of real kind of data and evidence and scoping. And I mean, the key headline from that is that 60% of those respondents were concerned that they might not continue in business past the end of the year, which is a really kind of powerful and stark headline. So we've done a lot to make sure that that information is heard and shared. And obviously, if people want more information on that, you know, do let us know if you're not able to find that. But Kerry very helpfully helped make sure that we got that survey onto the PEG agenda. Bit of an obviously putting it in the context of the incredible third sector response to COVID that, you know, Jag and Ant and lots of people, you know, loads of you have already given some illustration of the work that's being done alongside the volunteering hub, all of that work. Are you okay? The support to people who are shielding, lots of different ways in which the third sector's responded, but equally this huge tension with the concern that the sector has about its future existence, actually, which is, you know, massively stark. And we had a really good response, didn't we, from PEG, Kerry? We really had a sense that they gave us a really good hearing, that they were wanting to, you know, rise to that kind of challenge of offering some practical help and support. So I think the opportunity that gives us with that kind of health and well-being, health and care bit of the system is that we need to really clearly identify what needs to happen next. And I don't know if you want to say a bit more about that, Kerry, before I then go on, and I'll say a little bit more about the action plan that third sector leads have been involved with too. Kerry.
Yeah, thanks, Pip. I'm off mute. So yeah, I think it was a really good discussion. It was well received, as you say, Pip. I think they took it as a really serious issue, as they do with things that we bring about the third sector, and recognise that impact across the whole health and wellbeing strategy, left shift, person-centred outcomes. Social prescribing was something they talked about in particular, and how that's a growing, increasingly important area. But I think you're right. They were kind of trying to come up with solutions in the meeting to be helpful, but talking about we need more partnerships, we need more joint bids. Third sector organisations might think about sharing backroom functions. maybe, I mean, one of the suggestions was maybe even more, we should have more volunteers and fewer paid staff, which I didn't think was a great suggestion in terms of impact on equalities, etc., inequality. But I think Pip's right. The challenge for us is what's next. So how do we go back with something that is a serious ask from them to us? And I suppose some of that challenge is, and that this might be a bit controversial to say this, but are there some areas of the what the third sector provides that are more crucial to delivery of the health and care outcomes that we want to see than others? Because money is going to be so limited in the future, and I think that is a real challenge for us. And nobody would want to say that some organisations are more important than others, or we're doing more important work. But I think we ought to be unafraid of that debate. But I do think that's a massive challenge.
Yeah, I think it's a really important point, and it is, I think, something that we need to kind of be grappling with, some of those hard issues. One of the things as well, just to update, and I know many of you may know this already, but there's a gold third sector resilience group that's been set up. So Shahid from Leeds City Council Communities team has set up a group, and there's a kind of bit of a work plan, action plan coming out of that. We've been working as Forum Central very hard to make sure that health is also included. I think we actually play quite a key role often in helping glue together bits of the system, actually, which I think is kind of helpful and an important role. But there's obviously that real need to maintain the scope, diversity, capacity and sustainability of the sector. So there's a specific action plan that's being worked up. So that, falling out of the third sector survey, the main areas of that are funding, thinking about the impact of volunteering and making sure that we are capitalising on the brilliant work that has been done across the city around volunteering, but also the value that volunteering has to people and communities. But also, you know, as Kerry says, we need to temper that with an understanding of what the broader third sector is and how we need professional, well-paid, you know, it's that real breadth, isn't it? So some of the conversations have been about system critical third sector organisations, and that's absolutely right. But we also need to fight for all of the other broad, diverse, creative, you know, the brilliant wealth of the third sector and community provision is exactly what gives the value. The sum of the parts is so much greater, isn't it, because of that breadth and diversity. There's also a strand around environment, which didn't, you know, come up particularly in the resilience survey, but is absolutely a really important part, I think, of what the third sector and the city needs to not lose sight of in all of this. So there are those 4 areas, and our particular ask to you is if anybody's interested in working, and I can send a kind of clear ask perhaps in a follow-up email about what those particular areas would be, because Richard Jackson and Leela from the communities team and I've just had a meeting this morning to kind of scope out some of those areas. But yeah, as I say, funding, the one that I maybe didn't say very clearly, there's something that's all around the kind of geography and how the ward hubs and all of the, you know, like Julia from Maycare and a number of you have been involved in those ward responses to providing services and provision to people around kind of welfare and food and getting access to medication and all of that response. But how does that map in the future? What do we actually need longer term in terms of how that fits with neighbourhood networks, how that fits with the school clusters and lots of other locality focused provision. And certainly a lot of this also was discussed at the Health and Wellbeing Board yesterday about our future city and what that looks like, and a recognition that how people live well locally in their communities and in the geographies that they're in across what is also a kind of one Leeds city is an important conversation to be having. So there's some really interesting and important conversations to engage with. I'll send out a clear ask about all of this, but I guess we just really wanted to kind of get that on your agenda and kind of make sure that you were kind of clocking that those conversations are happening, and that it's really important that as part of the sort of health and care, health and wellbeing community, that we get involved with those. And were you putting a hand up there to come in?
I was, Pip. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just going to say one of the things that we're mindful of in the communities is we've had, as an organisation, we've had 9 deaths during the COVID period. Not all of them are COVID related, but you know, one of the community responses around, I think this is, I think it's pertinent to a lot of BME communities. One of the responses is when people are going through bereavement is how the community all rallies around, and one of the, and you know, attends funerals and after events. And I think what we're coming across is that how do we as a service and how does the city prepare for the kind of legacy of COVID afterwards, you know, in terms of mental health, certainly stuff around bereavement and the long-term implications for people of, and you kind of think, I know everybody compares back to the war, but you kind of think of those issues that happened after the war where people sort of came through the trauma of something, and as they came out the other end, there was there were a lot of issues that happened for people. So that was just something I wanted to raise.
Thank you so much. Such an important thing. And yeah, no, I see Jane nodding. I think the whole issue around kind of fear and trauma and response and grieving and bereavement is huge, isn't it? That we shouldn't shy away from kind of flagging those. One of the things, incidentally, that I've been raising in a number of meetings is that you can't just reopen services and everyone's just going to tip back up as they were. We're so changed by all of this, and services, we've been really fighting for NHS and other services to really take account of equalities as they reset and recover, which, you know, it's a challenge. Some are doing really well on this, I think, but it's difficult. It's a huge area. Again, these are big subjects, aren't they, that we're all grappling with, but it's really brilliant. Thank you to get your kind of input on those. Any other particular thoughts? I see. Thank you, Alyssa, kind of for interest in connecting with that. If anybody else particularly, you know, wants to be linked in, but obviously we'll make sure you're all linked in and kept up to speed, you know, as I hope you know we always try and keep doing. And, you know, again, any feedback on the information that we're sending, the kind of weekly updates, the website, you know, we're really keen to hear. So I'm not seeing any other particular people wanting to come in other than, you know, some real kind of nods and acknowledgement of the importance of this. So, you know, massive thanks to kind of Kerry and all of you who are helping us kind of raise and kind of keep these issues really at the forefront of our kind of partners' minds. And I think, yeah, and again, it's about working together. And, you know, there's been some brilliant working together between infrastructure organisations, actually, which has been really heartening to kind of see what's possible. So that's brilliant too. So I think if everybody, unless anybody particularly wants to say anything further, we'll move on to Toby. And I think, are we going to have a go, Ros, at sharing your screen?
Before I do that, can I just ask you to either physically thumbs up or use the electronic thumbs up, and let me know, have you heard of Loop, the Leeds online, open and online platform before? So there's not a lot of thumbs up. Oh, there's one. 2, 3. So
can I just remind people but we did have a presentation that Toby and others bought when it was being called the
Leeds repository.
So if we ask the same question about the repository, do we have any different response? Yeah, there's few more, couple more.
Oh, that's a little bit more activity there. That's good. And did you receive a presentation before this event, before this session on Loop? There's one. Lucy's put a link to one in the chat. So and also we'll send out more information afterwards, because we haven't got long today to explain a fairly complicated process. So I'm going to try and do a sort of quick and dirty introduction to what we're up to and what it's all about and why it's important. And then hopefully we'll have a few minutes to for you to ask questions or share your insights. And then after this, we're going to send out a little survey, a very brief little survey, to try and gather a bit more information from you. So there's a second chance to share with us your ideas, insights, feedback, challenges, and all the rest. So I've already explained who I am and my background, and why I'm really particularly pleased to be here today. And also just to mention, if you don't know Habitat, that we're a co-design digital inclusion and innovation team who are hosted by the Leeds and York Partnership Foundation Trust. And we run quite a lot of projects and programmes and training and events. And what we're all about is trying to ensure that everybody benefits from digitally enabled health and care. And one of the programmes that we're really pleased to be involved in is Mindswell Leeds, which we obviously run in partnership with Volition. And we've been heavily involved in Loop from the very beginning, or the repository as it used to be called. Although obviously I'm quite new in, so bear with me. But actually it was one of the things that when I started at Habitat, I felt I was really impressed with. And I think that it is actually it will become a national exemplar. So really, it's another sort of area where Leeds is leading the way. So I'm hoping today that what I can do is raise a bit of awareness around Loop and increase our engagement with the third sector, explore some barriers and facilitators and drivers for getting the third sector involved, and more importantly to and having listened to the very important and serious conversations that we've been having this morning, I think a big question for me is how can we make the most of this to support you to be able to do the important work that you do, and that's in terms of supporting the sector to understand what the issues are, understand what's happening out there, and to survive and thrive in the future, which is going to be a big challenge. Loop stands for Leeds Open Online Platform, which I don't know that really explains what it is, but I think it's important to really sort of touch on the problems that we're trying to solve here in the first place, and also how Loop connects with the system and the priorities in Leeds. So specifically, that everybody will have seen this, I'm sure, the health and wellbeing strategy, and in the central point of it is the point that it starts with everybody and everything being connected, and that's fundamentally what this is about. Also this connects with priority 7, which is maximising the benefits from information and technology. And obviously that interrelates with all the other priorities as well. And I think we've heard a lot already today about research and data and information and how important that is. And the challenges and opportunities, I think, that we're trying to tackle with Loop is firstly about the volume, managing the volume and quality of information in our city. And anyone who's running an information platform like Mindswell Leeds will know that the holy grail is ensuring that information is accurate and kept up to date, and that is a really difficult job to do. And secondly, the other problem that we're trying to solve is about how do we collate and analyse and use that information to help achieve that goal of being a healthy and caring city for all ages. And I think we've been talking about investment and funding, about the shape of services, about what people are looking for, what they need, and it's all of that kind of issue, really, managing that huge quantity of information. So this is the official presentation slide on what is Loop, but really it's about under the bonnet. It's a sort of under the bonnet system, so it's not a front-facing system. It's under the bonnet, inside the engine, and it's all about inputting, sharing, collating and using data about health and care services and activities in our city. And I think to use a health analogy, can't speak today, it's a bit like a vascular system in our bodies. So if the directories are out there, and there's some examples on this slide, if the directories out there are the organs in our body and blood is the data, Loop is the vessel and the system through which we get the data or the blood to all the different organs and directories. But it is quite a lot more than that. So these aren't the official slides now. I've been adapting a bit. I don't know what Nick Parker's going to say. Don't report on
I won't tell
him. But anyway, so I wanted to say that it is a little bit more than that. And I think Loop at its best in the future will be all of these things. And the first and really important thing, and the reason why it's important I'm here today, is about the collective. So this information data system should not belong to one organisation. It should belong to the whole city. And it should be based on relationships of shared purpose, trust, understanding and a contribution, so that we're all working together for the good of all. And one of the sort of key challenges with directories and sort of information sharing is ensuring that we get that hyperlocal information out there. And that's what's really important about this system, that it's able to collect and share that really important and valuable and really actually quite difficult to update and collect information at a hyperlocal level. It's a pipework, so it sort of provides a behind the scenes sort of pipework to share, collate, and I've already sort of talked about this, but share, collate and analyse data very quickly and very efficiently across the city. And that data, if we can get that right, that's the data and evidence that we need to show, you know, what citizens are looking for, what's the need, how, and also the third sector would be able to sort of pull it off and use it for funding applications, for rationale, for justification. And I think that kind of relates quite well to the difficult conversation that I think Kerry was sort of provoking there around, you know, what services do we really need, our priorities in the city. And then there's something about the quality standards. So part of this Loop programme is all about how do we provide a system that will help us to improve the quality of information and the accuracy of that information that's going into all these directories and potentially indirectly services. It is about saving money and time. So I'll explain a little bit more about how it works, but it's about that when somebody's inputting a piece of data into the system, it will then go out into all the directories, so they only have to do it once. And in terms of the directories, they will have lots of different people inputting their own data into their directory, so they don't have to, you know, do a survey and talk to everybody who has a service or activity in the city. So it's sort of fast tracking that. And as I've said before, this is also a really useful tool to collect information that will help with investment and shape services. And the last sort of picture here is a coffee cake. And the point here is that this is about the sum of the parts and creating something together. And actually, if we can all work together, we do save time, we can be more efficient, and we can provide something that benefits everybody. So this is the official slide about how this all works. And at one end, you've got information providers. So this is anybody who's running a service or activity that's relevant to this system in the city. So they would be able to fill out a form, plug it in, and then it goes off to all the different directories who want that information in the city, who are holding that information in the city. And you can see that it's of benefit to the citizens of Leeds, to the health professionals, social prescribers, and obviously the third sector. And I wanted to just mention this, especially as the conversation that we've just had, that if we had had this system in place, this is 5 ways that it would have helped with the crisis. First of all, it would have enabled us to get a quick citywide response out there and that could respond to the changing circumstances in real time. It would provide an instant service activity update in all directories. So a lot of service and activities have obviously changed because a lot of them were about face-to-face contact. And people would be able to instantly push that into the system and out it would go into directories, and that information will get out to citizens quicker. And it's also, you know, I've been involved in a lot of conversations about getting messaging out there about keeping safe. So we would have had a system to actually get that messaging out really, really quickly and update it quickly. And also there's something about there's been quite a lot of new resources coming in, not enough obviously, but new support and funding and other resources to help support people in communities and support third sector. Could have got that out much quicker. And also we've done a lot of analytics on Mindwell to see, what are people using now, and we've noticed a 25% increase in the I Need Urgent Help from this time last year, and the I Need Urgent Help page. And we would be able to do that as a whole city to understand what are people searching for, what are their needs, and actually quickly respond to that. So that's 5 ways we could have helped with the crisis. Next stage will be, we're about to sort of move into sort of more of the technical build. We're talking to some people in the third sector who are running some of these directories in terms of, can we have some pioneers to test this with before we sort of go to the whole city. Obviously, this is the start of really raising awareness and engaging stakeholders, and it's my view that it's really important that the third sector own this in whatever way. And we're talking to Pip and Lucy about, how could we involve Volition and Forum Central in that. And then obviously we'll be evaluating and improving this along the way. And immediately I'll be sending out a survey, hopefully with Lucy and Pip's support, to you all to gather more information about what we should do with this and how we should use this. So I'm really interested in your insights and questions, whether or not you think this is a good thing, a thumbs up or thumbs down, and what should we do to ensure that the third sector can fully engage and benefit, importantly, and benefit from Loop. So help us shape the next.
I suppose the one thing I wanted to mention is that so we are doing some early work with I've been working with Daisy at Forum Central, so we're bringing in some of the COVID update service sort of members service updates, which we have sort of put into Loop. So that's kind of an early sort of proof of concept, and we're hoping to distribute that information on some other websites. I think maybe just have a look for everyone to just have a look through the rest of the presentation, because hopefully it's quite clear to walk through and understand. But it's a bit abstract in some ways, because as Ross says, it's kind of under the hood rather than something you can see necessarily. But we'll try and sort of socialise the view of it when it's a bit clearer. But yeah, I think the key point, actually, one key point in the one of the slides about the how the information goes in is that we're kind of not intending to replace all the existing directories. We just want to replace where that information lives. So we're not scrapping any directories or listings. We just want to make those all in one place, so everyone has a view of it if they need to.
I think that's incredibly important, and thank you so much, Ros. It's such a key piece of work, and I think, my broad sense is the third sector is absolutely so behind this, because it just makes so much sense for so many people. I don't know, Daisy, if you want to say anything about, because it's brilliant that you've been connecting, so all of the member updates and information that people have been sending to us, Daisy's been grappling with trying to see how that can fit. So maybe it's enough just for people to know that, Daisy, and sorry, I was conscious as well, I missed you on the introductions,
no,
but
that's okay.
You've been a really important link in this chain, which has been brilliant to have.
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone can appreciate we had so many updates and things kind of change all the time. So I think that the idea is that to be able to have things that we can update and get them out to everybody without having to manually send them or for people to search for them is hopefully going to be a big improvement. But yeah,
definitely.
I think the really important lesson from the early work we're doing with Forum Central is that how we understand communities. I mean, Daisy's their updates are kind of very much for people, communities, and need, people of need in different areas of need, and it's how we represent that in Loop so that people can access that data is really important. So you might have different challenges for people, and it's getting that support out of the system in a structured way. So that's really useful.
Yeah, that's a really important point, isn't it? And that's the kind of sense check and the intelligence and knowledge and relationships that, we all as the third sector bring, that actually it isn't neutral stuff, is it, this? It's about how it's kind of presented and received. And any other thoughts? I know, Kerry, yes, come in.
So it might be a stupid question, but is this connected at all to the Leeds care record? Are they just two completely separate things?
No, it's not connected to the Leeds Care record, but we are looking to use it to support other clinical systems. So if an example of that is we might want to let social prescribers sort of use it in a clinical setting, perhaps, or other maybe a person held record. I don't know if anyone's heard of Helm, but we might start using Loop to present really targeted information for people to sort of support their self-management of conditions, or even prevention, sort of to promote behaviour change. So if someone has certain things on their record around, I don't know, they might have a diabetes condition or a certain age range, then we can present them useful information in their area, even that would help them manage their condition or even prevent them getting things.
So there'll be some interesting data issues around it, won't there?
Yeah, we're definitely we're having IG conversations. We're obviously very keen on the IG side of it for various things.
No, it sounds.
The other really important area that we just wanted to touch on is the new information governance officer role. Lucy, are you able to give us an update on where that's got to?
Yes, thanks, Pip. I know we just talked about Leeds Care Record, and this is very much linked to that. I don't know if we can cast our minds back. It was probably February time that we last spoke about this, but some of you might remember we'd been in conversations with the team at the City Digital Partnership around getting a third sector information governance officer, particularly around the need to enable third sector organisations to be able to access Leeds Care Record. I think initially accessing it and being able to see the information, but also with a view to obviously being able to input information. And there's lots of information governance issues around that, which has been the barrier really in place for getting greater third sector access. So there was some funding that went to the Digital Pathfinder scheme through NHS Digital, which wasn't successful. But amazingly, the City Digital team through Alistair Cartwright and Nick Parker, who are part of work with Toby and Roz as well, they've been able to access funding, I think, through the CCG to fund this post, which is specifically going to be for a person who's an IG expert or knowledgeable in IG, but specifically with a focus on working with third sector organisations, particularly, again, looking at Forum Central members. Obviously, it's a focus on health and care. There was a bit of back and forth as to when the recruitment could take place, obviously with COVID, slight delay on that, but we have actually now gone forward and recruited a person into this role, which is fantastic, and they're going to be starting in the next few weeks, and it's a role for a year, so they're going to be starting, I think, at the end of June, working until next June. Looking at their work plan at the moment, obviously really important to get members' views, and if you're particularly interested in this, we want to hear from you. We're just probably going to come out to you and get a sense of if this is of interest for your organisation, and also about timings and whether it's something that you have capacity to look at now, or whether it's something for the future. But I suppose just to let you know that it's coming, and we've got this person who's recruited. I think it's official now, so I can let you know. It's a lady called Danny Mystery, who's coming from Bradford Council, and she's going to be employed through the council, but it is a third sector role, so really exciting development, and we'll share more information. I know we don't have a lot of time left, but if anyone has any questions or comments or wants to have a chat about that, in the meantime, please do get in touch. I'm happy to speak, or if you want me to link you up to Danny directly, or through the City Digital team as well.
No, thank you, Lucy. And yeah, huge thanks to you for kind of keeping going on this one, because it's been a constant issue, I think, for third sector for years, hasn't it, about making sure we get the right information governance and the opportunity to share the information and get treated like an equal partner. So I think to get to this point where we have a post who can help focus on that, and who can really kind of be that kind of bridge and enabler, both in terms of building third sector capacity, but also I think advocating for the third sector in those kind of conversations and with people, I think will be really helpful and powerful. So yeah, it's and obviously, as Lucy says, it links to the Leeds Care Record. There's all sorts of links. There's some brilliant work that Crossgates, one of the neighbourhood networks, is doing around people who are shielding and starting to pilot what would it look like if we were able to really share some information. And there are huge complexities and complications and reasons why it's difficult to do, but actually it's the right thing to do, to find a way of doing that. So it's particularly important, I think, at this time. And as we reset the system, these are the kind of leaps and steps forward that potentially we can really capitalise on, if we can say, look, what we were able to do, how do we do that, not just in a crisis, but in our everyday lives, whatever they ever might look like again. But yeah, so thank you so much. We have run out of time, but if anybody has got particular interest in engaging with that, then absolutely let Lucy know. Huge thank you all. I know it's been a packed agenda, and we've covered lots of different really important issues today, and just brilliant to get all of your kind of input and support with this work, because we can't do any of this without you. So thank you so much. Unless anybody's got any kind of final thoughts or comments, I think we're done. And go well and stay well and be kind to each other and look after yourselves. See you again soon.
Thanks very much.
You.
Bye.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.